What is up, everyone? This is Spire Fan. What a way to end the year, December 2025. Shoutouts to Brian. He has been playing almost every month in 2025. He definitely has been keeping at it. And for December, he actually ended up playing a longtime good friend of mine, Ramen Noodles, aka Michael Torres. He will be flying out of the country for a 1-year military mission. So he's trying to, definitely get some time with friends as much as he can before early this year. Is around February. So I'm glad that he could swing by and play some Pokemon Highlander. That being said, he is playing an old familiar deck, and I'm excited to see these two go at it. So round one, we see Zekrom versus Larvesta. Zekrom starting with that DCE Eviolite, 100 HP, fully evolved basic Pokemon. And basically the more damage counters put on Zekrom, the more that he can dish back with Outrage. And looking like Brian, though, is going right for a Larvesta setup into Volcarona. He doesn't have Volcarona out right now, spoiler alert. That being said, Michael, is able to set up Jolteon on the bench here, plus he'll able to get Lightning Energy back, or any basic energy after a knockout. And here comes Volcarona level X. Brian going for the challenge initiation. Doesn't look like Pokemon were benched there where Brian gets his draw too. Brian uses Volcarona's attack for no energy, allowed to... He basically gets a lot more HP and deals a lot more damage. He does another Scale Dance. Now he gets 2 counters, and each counter again represents a lot more HP and damage. So he's set up twice. Ramen Noodles, aka Michael, looking for what to do there in a response. He does have Bolt Hunt on the bench. Bolt Hunt can knock out any EX as long as they have a damage counter. He does send up Bolt Hunt here. Plays his Stadium that lets him grab a Lightning or Dragon basic Pokemon. Basically the equivalent of Brooklet Hill for those types. Brian looking like he's got Blaziken on the bench and Flareon, both Pokemon able to inflict burn here. We do see Full Flame, so Full Flame says that burned Pokemon will now take 40 damage between turns. And you stack that with Volcarona level X, dealing a ton of damage with 2 Scale Dance counters. And then Blaziken and Flareon adding even more damage. And then you see the Special Fire adding 20 HP to Volcarona. Also, for every counter on Volcarona, you draw an extra card at the start of your turn. And you can heal more damage with Volcarona level, which is Poke Power, per energy attached to your Pokemon. That being said, Michael Torres pulls off the legendary Raichu level X combo of Legend. We have talked about this for quite a few years now. We haven't seen it pulled off in tournament, but there is a rare scenario where, Pichu, if you evolve through Pichu, you are granted a Poke Power and a Poke Body. And a Poke Power that Pichu has basically says that after Raichu uses Burst Ball, you can use another attack. So what he just did there is he played Raichu level X, which says after you use Voltage Shoot, you can use another attack. Okay, I'll use Burst Ball. And then with Pichu's Pokebody, not power, you can use another attack. So then he used Raichu's first attack for no energy. He did 3 attacks in 1 turn. And his deck has definitely a lot of strategies oriented around that. Very high skill execution in terms of the skill ceiling that it demands. You gotta have your energy in hand for Voltage Shoe and just be prepared of evolving into Raichu and then leveling up. That being said, we did see Brian take the first game, and as we're seeing in the second game, he is just being blunt about going for Volcarona level X and getting those Scale Dance counters on Volcarona level X. Again, just adding a ton of HP and damage per counter on there. We do see 3 special fire on Volcarona. The first one you see from right to left gives him 20 more HP, and then Brian also has 2 special fire that increase the damage done by Volcarona by 10 each. We see Emolga on Ramen Noodle's side. Emolga has free retreat, able to call upon benched Pokemon, basic Pokemon to put on your bench, and so great way to have some good mobility there and able to just kind of freely pivot. As we see here, freely pivot into Jolteon. Again, Brian is just trying to initiate problems here. We do see Jolteon level X trying to get some damage counters out there with Jolteon level X's Poke Power, and then Jolteon level X has an attack where if you get at least 2 heads, you add these numb counters to the opponent, which kind of makes them paralyzed. There are ways to get rid of it. There is a method to get rid of it, but you basically are trying to look to lock out your opponent with those counters. He only gets 1 heads though, and Brian continues to try to. He's definitely going for a setup sweeper strategy with Volcarona. And as we noted in the last game, he's got Flareon, Blaziken, and now Salazzle this game. Salazzle has a Poke Power that inflicts Burn and Poison. So he has 3 Pokemon that all have powers that can inflict the Burn condition. And then in Flareon and Salazzle's case, Confusion and Poison. But with Blaziken's case, you can inflict Burn every turn. You don't have to evolve to redo it. So just a lot of burst damage potential. We do see Volcarona level X going to the bench here. And it looks like Brian is able to re-pivot out though. And then he's able to secure the game with some Volcarona knockouts. Game 3, again, a similar case. You'd almost think that, you know, these players are stacking their deck, but no, I watched them shuffle, and they did start Zekrom and Larvesta again. And yeah, I mean, again, ideal starts on both sides. Zekrom's a huge wall, fully evolved basic, and Volcarona can set up really fast with the level X. And we're seeing right here that Brian's using a Colress to draw quite a few amount of cards. Michael here's got Manectric, which protects his whole bench except for Manectric. So Pokemon like Togedemaru that do a ton of bench damage on both sides won't affect any of his Pokemon except for Manectric, which Michael does run Bench Shield to protect Manectric as well. We do see Manectric level X. We haven't seen this Pokemon form in a while, which does, you know, intimidation counters, making the opponent do 20 less. You see that Mega Sceptile figure there, that represents the intimidation counter. So Volcarona level X is doing 20 less, but it also has 2 of the scale counters, and the scale counters are out buffing the nerfs of the intimidation counter there. If you do retreat, you do lose the intimidation counter, just like, you know, the Pokemon Smogon formats. And we do see Brian again just being relentless with Volcarona level X, stacking a bunch of energy, promoting it back up, and securing the game there. And yeah, props to both players for showing up and playing. You know, I know it's been a while for Ramen Noodles. I'm glad he showed up to play. And Brian has been dramatically improving each month. I cannot understate that. You know, there's a lot of elements relatable to fighting games with card games. And definitely with Highlander, I aimed for that on purpose. And I can see a lot of the strategies Brian has been developing and honing and trying to adjust. So congrats to him on his first tournament win. I look forward to seeing both these players around in the future. And as always, thank you to the pizza place for always giving us a great venue, great service. And if you're in the Kansas City area, whether you're swinging by as a traveler or you live around the Kansas City area, please pay the pizza place a visit. I am not sponsored by them. I genuinely think they are a great business ran by great people, and you'll have a good time, guaranteed. Have a good one. Stay safe out there, and adios.